and keep it real.
Big day today. I'm gonna smash it, bruv, innit? Say less.
Booyakasha. Not long ago I made a video about the first SCOOP title for Lex Veldhuis, and today we're gonna look at his run for his first WCOOP title. It also comes from a 5k buy-in tournament, but this time it was a progressive bounty one. Our first hand starts with open from chip leader in early position. He can be much wider than in a freeze-out tournament, opening more than a third of his hands, and King 9 off is on the bottom of that range. Action folds to Lex on big blind, and he decided to 3-bet it. Solver prefers to flat all ace-9 combos and use other offsuit aces as a bluff. The most common one is ace-5 off. It has better blocking properties. It doesn't block that many folding hands like all offsuit hands from 10-9 off to king-9 off or 9-6 suited. And also it may fold out better hands like ace-6 or ace-7 off. This is also a good time to talk about simplifying GTO. It's very hard to execute exact solver strategies here, where bluffs come at very low frequency from different hands, and it's very easy to get that wrong during play. If you use the simplified strategies checkbox in the app that rounds up frequencies, we can see that in this scenario we wouldn't have any bluffs at all, and that of course is wrong. On the other hand, if we 3-bet all low offsuit aces, we wouldn't be well balanced and bluff way too much. My advice for this situation would be to add up all these low frequency bluffs and put them in one basket. And for example, 3-bet ace-5 or ace-4 all the time. Same with jamming. I'd choose ace-7 or ace-8 and as an always all-in and call other offsuit aces that want to continue. We won't have perfect board coverage on all runouts, but this situation doesn't come often enough, so it will be impossible to read from our opponent, and we will have very good preflop frequencies and won't have to worry too much about randomizing. After 3-bet we can see that UTG should continue a lot, but king 9 off as a bottom of range is a pure fold. In the next hand we see the shortest stack jamming 8 big blinds from the button. He should still be more careful with his hand selection here. He is covered by both players, and because of his bounty he won't get many folds. So even hands like lowest pairs or 10-9 suited should be folded here. King 5 off is way off, and his worst king to jam should be king 9. Lex also cannot go too crazy. First of all, the button's range should be pretty tight, but what's even more important here, he is covered by big blind who could go for double KO here. Lex should still have some calls to trap, with kings and aces, and use some of the worst aces off as calls to fold to potential squeeze. Queen jack off is a perfectly fine rejam, and if button is wider than he should, this play gets even better. Another hand starts with a raise on the button. He covers both blinds and can be very wide here, opening 65% of hands, with holdings as weak as 10-6 off or 5 deuce suited. Lex on the small blind decided to 3-bet ace-8 off, and that is correct play here, but ace-8 can be also played as a call in this situation. 10-9 suited should call this 3-bet, and we can go to postflop. Now a small note. Our postflop solver doesn't take bounties into account, so ranges might be a little bit off, but I think it's still worth looking at it. On the flop, solver wants to c-bet almost 90% of hands, using either smaller sizing or just going all in. Ace-8 off is using mixed strategy, and it's an ace that checks the most, so it's an okay play. 10-9 of spades can bet versus check, but checking back is the preferred action here. Button has a range disadvantage here and shouldn't bet too much, only around 25% of hands. On the turn that opens the second flush draw, Lex decided to bet small with his top pair. Solver again mixes actions here with this hand, checking it as the most common choice and betting sometimes with all different sizings. Versus small bet, 10-9 of spades is a pure call. 3 of hearts is a very interesting card, completing the flush draw and bringing the fourth card to a straight. Small blind shouldn't check this river very often. Neither player should have that many flushes or straights here, and small blind still has a range advantage. We can see though that ace-7 and ace-8 off are only aces that are using this action. Against check, 10-9 suited is one of the hands that want to bluff here. Button has no showdown value and doesn't have many worse hands than that. It's never easy to call all-in for tournament life, but given his passive line post-flop, he shouldn't fold any aces here. This one was one of the key hands in that tournament. In the very next hand, we see Yuri Jivelevsky going all-in from the cutoff. We can see, same as in example before, that lowest pairs, deuces and threes, are pure folds. He should also value hands with high cards, like ace-deuce off or king-9 off, much higher than pretty hands like 6-7 suited or jack-8 suited. He will have to win a showdown here because the big blind should be calling any two cards if all players between them fold their hands, and high cards are much better when he will have to win a hand versus any two cards. Lex, as a player covering everyone left to act, made a small raise, and if we zoom in, it's a solver play with a very low frequency, but his overall strategy should be just calling his whole range with around 2/3 of hands. Queen 7 off though is a bit too weak and should be mostly folding it in that spot. That's all for today. As we could see, KO tournaments are very different from freeze-out ones, and some situations are very counterintuitive if you're used to playing without bounties. That's definitely not the last video on this format. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and see you next time. Bye.